What's going on YouTube? JT is Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my DC comic book reviews. And in this video, we're talking about Nightwing 2025 Annual number 1. This one is written by Dan Waters with artwork by Francesco Francavilla. I think that's how you pronounce it. And this is a pretty essential thing to the run if you want to know the backstory of OliviaPearce and the Zanni and how that all kind of ties together. And there's actually some ties into some other Batman-related media that I was kind of surprised by, but I actually really liked it. In fact, I thought this was a really good annual. Like, this felt like an essential bit of reading if you're in tune with the current Nightwing run and you want to know more about what the Zanni is, and you want to know where OliviaPearce, the head of Spheric Industries, background comes from, because she's not originally OliviaPearce. She was Olivia Hilling, I think it was. Like, I keep forgetting the name, but it's in the last page. We'll get to that in a second. But basically, essentially, she went by a different last name. She was a girl who found solace in comic books, and her father was somebody who was all in on the comics code and just trying to censor all this stuff. Like, this is bad stuff for kids to be reading. He was really kind of controlling and stuff, and she found solace in this stuff, so much so that, like, it was kind of her escape from reality. Like, she really liked reading the stuff, but her father was really against it. Stuff you've seen, like, parents banning books and trying to do all that other stuff, like, the crazy wacky parents, which inevitably spark kind of a darker stuff within their kids. So, stuff like that. But we eventually do learn what the Zanni is, and it's kind of like the god or the spirit of the circus. And it's kind of lost its power over time because the circus used to be kind of this unique, special place to kind of create, like, a sense of wonderment and it's kind of no longer as special because you have heroes able to do all these crazy things, and so its power that it, like, drew from the idea of the circus and all that has kind of just dwindled over time. So it's looking to kind of regain that power and kind of change people's perception on things. And it's just one of those things that draws its power from, like, the circus and the stories it can tell and visuals and all that stuff. And now that it's kind of lost that over time, thanks in part to the everyday, like, circus kind of breaking out from that and just kind of making its way into, like, the real world of sorts. It's kind of lost that power. That's the best I can explain it. So, but yeah, so we also have tie-ins to the Gray Ghost, which is kind of a nice touch because I love the stuff with the Gray Ghost whenever that's brought up. But yeah, so Olivia's dad was really against comic books and all that. We still have the crazy stuff with the fifth dimensional imp stuff going on in the tower, but this is basically the Commissioner Sawyer or whatever kind of investigating things and trying to, like, do some digging, and that's basically what she comes to find out. We see more of the Zanni right here, and the Zanni is kind of like this creepy being of sorts. Like, when Olivia went to the comic shop, because, like I said, her bit of solace was kind of reading the Gray Ghost and Wonder Boy stories, she kind of cries, and that's where the Zanni kind of emerges from it to kind of take things over. So we also see the person who was originally the ringmaster of it, who was the person who was writing the Gray Ghost, and the Zanni basically took his memories and all that, because he wanted him to design death traps for Batman and Robin, because with Batman and Robin basically out of the picture, he could kind of regain power, something along the lines of that. We do get some creepy images of the Zanni right here, like the way he's kind of crawling on the ceiling and such, and you just see the fear in their eyes and all that too. I just like the way that's kind of told. I like the fact that between this book and Batman and Robin, we have kind of these, like, otherworldly horror type beings incorporated into, like, an ongoing Batman, like, title. Like, we have the Zanni here, which is, like, the spirit of the circus, and then we have the whole Memento thing, which is like an eldritch demon. The Zanni's more like a fifth dimensional imp type being and such. I don't know, it's kind of crazy how it all kind of comes together that way, but they're basically otherworldly horrors kind of going into, like more of the real world of sorts, not like our real world, but like real world to the DC characters, like just the normal world, I should say. I don't know, the main Earth or something like that, but these are kind of otherworldly beings appearing in the main Earth and such. So there's some good stuff right there to eventually do learn more about her backstory with her father, who basically at one point was just scolding his daughter. Also, the last name is Hillman, and she's coming home one day, she's reading her comic book, she's really excited about it, she goes home, and her father's like, "What's that she got there?" And they get into a bit of a scuffle, and her father tries to throw her down to the basement, but then she, like, in the scuffle, accidentally gets him knocked down, and he dies, and then she kind of runs away, and as we could say, like Sawyer's kind of investigating this stuff and kind of putting the dots together. And by the end of it, they're just like, okay, like, how's this all going to turn out? Find out next time in Nightwing 129. So artwork here is pretty good. I think it works more for the flashback style and all that too. I like kind of the colors, the way they're kind of visually used to tell the story. We get some panels that feel very flash, like kind of like an old school like Batman comic from like the 40s or something like that, to kind of mixed in with this thing. And the Zanni is just kind of this interesting looking character, and it's very much in the vein of the stuff you would see from Dan Waters, because like as it started out kind of grounded, I'm like, okay, when's the weird crazy stuff going to start? You know it's going to happen, and that's where the Zanni character comes in, and it definitely feels like a big threat, and you're just kind of wondering, how do you stop something like this? That's just such an otherworldly type threat. Between this and, like I said, the main Batman and Robin book by who's it Phil Kennedy Johnson, sorry, it's kind of late as I'm recording this. Just kind of seeing these different types of threats the Bat family would normally not go up against just makes it a little bit interesting. Not saying I want this all the time. I like kind of the grounded stuff that they face off against, but kind of these really otherworldly stuff and having to use their detective mindsets to try to figure out how to stop them, that to me is kind of interesting. But yeah, like I said, this is a pretty solid issue. It was nice to learn more of the backstory of Olivia and how she kind of fits into this thing, how she changed her name, how the Zanni basically kind of appeared to her at one point because of her like crying and that over the stories, because they're bitter of like escape from kind of the real world, like the way the spirit kind of emerged itself, and that tune is using her as kind of a pawn to kind of regain power, and just the way he's kind of affected other people and stuff too. It also kind of affected Dick Grayson and kind of orchestrating these different events and utilizing one of the kind of the writers of this sort of stuff to kind of manipulate things and create new death traps for them that are going to be inescapable, to try and bleed into the real world and regain his power and stuff. It's hard to kind of explain, but that's kind of like the idea of it all. So I thought this was good. Gave us some essential backstory for the Zanni, or Zanni. How do you, like, is it supposed to be Zanni or Zanni? I have no freaking clue, but the weird, crazy, fifth dimensional, eldritch, whatever you want to call it, evil spirit, circus god, whatever you want to, whatever it is, and getting more of Olivia's backstory and diving into more of that stuff. So, and the tragedy behind that stuff. I gotta admit, it's not exactly what I was expecting. But you know what? I like to be surprised. I like being introduced to some new stuff and concepts and all that. And of course, this being the spirit of the circus with Dick Grayson's background, it all kind of ties together in an interesting way. So I'm liking what they're doing with Nightwing quite a bit right now. I think Dan Waters this is the best thing I've seen him write since I've been reading his stuff, like at DC, at least since I've been covering it on the channel. And it definitely pulls in some of the weirder elements that I'm used to reading from him. I mean, going back to like Arkham City Order of the World, or even some of those bizarre detective comic things with the what was it, Night Terrors or whatever it was. He wrote the I think he wrote the Night Terror stuff with the weird demons and all that mixed in. So he likes to bring in, from what I've noticed, the weirder elements in that too. Like he can't stay grounded for long. It's gonna go supernatural or some fantastical element. But I think in this context, I think it works, and it creates something fun to read and interesting too. So if you get the chance to, I recommend checking this thing out, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next with Nightwing. How do you even stop something like this? That's what I want to know. So, all right. Well, that's all I have to say. As always, take care now. Bye-bye then. And I'll see you all in the next video. I should be all caught up now for this week's comics, so I'm looking forward to all that. All right. Peace out, everyone.